Alright, here we're going to show you how to use the do while loop, which is a post-test loop in C++. This loop means that the post-test means that the condition is tested at the end of the loop. This is the code we were using for the while loop video, and the conditions test before it enters any of these statements down here, and the condition has to be true. I changed the choice to an N, meaning that immediately these are false, so nothing should happen. So the only thing we should see when we compile this is the last statement that says program ending. Right, and here's the result of that. Right, so the conditions of the while loop were already false, so nothing happened inside the while loop. So we're going to change this to a do while, and that simply is taking this while statement and we're going to move it down to the end here. Right, and this is where we place it with the curly brackets. This is one of the only loop that has a semicolon here at the end of it, and we just have to add the do statements. Now the difference between the do while and the while is that the do will always execute the code inside the loop at least once, guaranteed at least once, because the condition is tested at the end. This is still end, meaning the conditions are already false when the program starts, but it will execute the program at least once. So let's go ahead and run that now. And there's the window for that, and you can see it's running the code inside the loop, even though choice is currently an N. Alright, so I'm going to enter two values, 2 and 3, add them up, 5. Do you want to go again? Now it's giving you the choice to enter yes or no. And if I enter no, it goes ahead and ends the program. If I entered yes, it should have went ahead and once again prompt us for inputs, which I'll show you here. So I really haven't changed anything in the program. Right, prompting you again, put a yes in there, and it goes again for the next time. Right, so it's same concepts as the while, except it's guaranteed you're going to run through this once. Right, that's the nice thing about this. Alright. So, what else can we use the do while for? It's great for menu driving and also for validation. Alright, so let's change this guy a little bit here now. Say enter two values to be added together, right, between 1 and 10. Right, get the two values. Now the only thing you got to do a little different here is you got to put an if statement here that's going to check to make sure. Let's make this a little simpler so we don't have to make the conditions. We're going to validate x. How about we do that? So okay, if x is greater than, let's say greater than or equal to 1, and x is less than or equal to 10. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do these statements in terms of adding it and outputting that statement. Alright, and prompt for the choice. Oops, we want that as part of the if statement, right? Because if it's invalid input, then we don't want to go ahead and ask them. Alright, I am going to change this condition. Actually, the whole loop is based on the valid input, so we're just trying to validate input. Alright, so same condition. So while this is between those values, right, we can keep going. So it's not really validating. As long as we give something between there, it's going to keep going. As soon as we give something that's not in there, it will stop execution. I believe I have this done. Let's see here. Alright, so there it's prompting us for the two values. We'll put some valid values in there. We get the 5. Do we wish to go again? This answer really doesn't matter because we're not using it. Alright, now I'm going to enter one valid value for the x again, and for the y. Still running, and I'm going to put a no in here just to show you that this is really having no effect on anything. Only validating x. I'm going to give it a -5 now, and a valid y, and the program ends. Alright, so it allows us to input once. if the inputs are valid, it goes ahead and does something. Alright, so let's just say you're getting one input at a time. Alright, so in a regular program, we wouldn't need this anymore. We can get rid of those statements. Alright, so we're just getting input that's going to be needed after the while loop. We're truly just validating. Let's leave that if statement there. So enter, we'll just enter value, value, and it's just going to be between 1 and 10. Alright, just to simplify it, we want to get in the one input. Alright, and we want to make sure it's between there. Right, so that's valid. We're not going to do anything when it's valid, but if it's invalid, we're going to put out a message. So let's change this to when it's invalid, when it's less than 1 and greater than 10. We're going to output invalid input. Try again. Alright. So now we have a loop here that's simply validating. Oops, let's not go ahead and do that because I didn't change this condition. We want to keep looping as long as it's invalid input. Alright, and there's our invalid inputs. Let's get that input and run the program now. So now I'm definitely going to go ahead and get the input for a value, something valid, takes it and goes ahead. Right? Simply this program doesn't do anything except get the input and validate it. So you can use this now for other programs that need validation. Put a -7 in there. Program ending. So my conditions is wrong here. Let's see if x, oh, this shouldn't be an and, or, right, there we go. Or if one of those is true. Can't never have both of those. Alright, there we go. See, that's why you have to test often. Code a little, test again, compile, and so forth. Alright, now -7, there we go. Invalid, I'm waiting for another input. If I keep putting something that's invalid, it's going to keep prompting me until I finally do something that's valid. Alright, so another way to validate inputs. Right, you can use the while loop, you can use do a while loop. There's always something extra that has to be done in the validation. Right, you're going to repeat the condition here so you can put the invalid message up. Or if you really don't want to put a message up, right, you can just keep prompting them, but it's good to tell them that something is wrong. Right? With the while loop, you gotta validate, have the same condition, but inside there you have to have these two statements again. Alright, the cout prompting them and the cin to get it. So there's some repetition in all these. Alright, once we get to functions, you can clean up a little bit better.